enough already. Today we've got sitting opposite me here, we've got Marcus Dusenbury from Viridian Investment Advisors, or just Viridian Investments.
ViridianAdvisors.com, yeah.
Viridian Advisors, okay. And located in Bothell. And he's back again for another tour of the Doe Show. Marcus is going to jump in here on this subject. Go ahead, Marcus.
Hey, Jeff's exactly right.
Hi.
I think the bottom line is that the hackers and fraudsters out there have gotten more sophisticated, and they continue to make the phishing attempts and the emails that you receive in your inbox look more and more legitimate. And so the really the best way to protect yourself is when you get an email, if you get any kind of correspondence that you have any suspicions about, even if you don't have suspicions, instead of ever using the phone number in the email, instead of ever using the link in the email, go and log into your account the way that you normally do. Typically, if you're getting an email from any sort of a financial institution, if you log into the account, if it's a legitimate email, there's going to be some sort of an alert in your account when you log in that will give you the same information and basically confirm that whatever type of a message that the financial institution is sending you is legitimate. Don't typically use the links. Don't call the phone numbers that they put in the email. They are setting up websites that look identical to your login page. So oftentimes when you get an email, you click on the link, it takes you to a site that looks just like the site you're used to logging into. And then what do? You type in your username, you type in your password, and they now have that information. And so it's quite sophisticated. I make a joke that, you're not getting emails from some Nigerian prince who needs to borrow money for a little while. That was years ago. That's done. They've really kind of stepped up their game, and consumers need to step up their game too, as far as being more cautious and more skeptical about this type of correspondence.
Well, my Nigerian princes are even going to send me money.
That's right.
They just want information so they can send it.
That's exactly right.
Well, the funny thing is, we came across Merrill Lynch had a post on their website or online there somewhere. It says, recently some Merrill Lynch clients have reported receiving emails that appear to be from Merrill Lynch but are in fact imposters. So Merrill Lynch knows this is going on.
Right.
They warn people not to do it, and then Merrill Lynch is one of the companies that goes and sends you emails from Merrill, legitimate emails.
Yeah.
Like,
Whenever you have a suspicion, go to the financial institution's actual website, not using the link.
Right.
Type in whatever financial institution you work with, type in the actual name, go to their legitimate website, or call your contact there that if you work with a financial advisor specifically, call them and talk to the people you're used to talking to. Make sure that this is really legitimate. But, one of the messages we've been pushing out to the public and our clients specifically is with all of these data breaches over the last few years, we really suggest consumers kind of begin to operate more under the assumption that their personal information has already been compromised, that it has been taken. Yeah. And to that end, at the very least, you need to be doing a regular credit check and looking through your credit report and making sure that nothing in there looks out of the ordinary or suspicious.
I'm going to jump in here, Jeff, because we're at the end of this segment. But I just want to mention it's not only what's happening on your computer; it's what's happening on your phone. And I got an auto call today from I put quotes around it, from Comcast. And I don't know what they wanted to do, except they wanted to update my Norton security. And I don't know, I'm going to have to call Comcast and find out whether I should be listening to robocalls coming from Comcast or not to update my Norton security. So stay away from listening to your phone when those calls come in too.
And one last thing. I'm sorry about protecting your accounts. Sign up for two-factor authentication. So that would be where a code is sent. So you get it. You go to log into your Chase account or whatever, Bank of America, and then they send a code to your phone, which only you should have the phone, right? And then you punch that in to get in. So obviously, if someone steals your just your information, the code's not going to go to their phone, right? It's going to go to your phone. So you should sign up for that. And also fingerprint, sometimes voice recognition. USAA has voice recognition.
Yeah, facial recognition is now kind of the new cutting edge, and
right.
You're going to start to see more and more of that two-step authentication. It's really important. I agree.
Right. Now, I don't know, you want to hear this trick about that, too. So there was a guy who was called up, and he said, he tried to, the crook tried to get in, and then he said, they sent the code to the real guy, right? So now the crook calls up the real guy and says, hi, we're from whatever the mutual fund was, and we need to, I understand you're having trouble getting into your account. Can you give me the code, and I'll see if I can get in and fix it. Right. So now he gave the code to the guy, and the guy stole money from it. So there is a way around it. So you don't, you got to be suspicious basically all the time.
Okay, Jeff, leave us with information about anyone that's listening. If they want to get more information about or even join Checkbook, how do they do that?
Well, just go to checkbook.org online, and that's our website, and you should have all the information you need there. I think you'll get a pop-up window if you go to read something that will suggest that you become a member. Especially if you want to get the ratings, for example, you have to be a member to get the ratings.
Right. Okay. And thanks for joining with us and becoming the new representative coming from Checkbook to getting you notarized. We'll be talking with you in about 6 months, I hope.
I've lost my virginity on raising dough, right?
There you go. That's terrific. Anyway, thanks for joining with us, Jeff. Take care back there. Hey, by the way, did you know we're all San Franciscans here? Did you know that? I thought I'd throw that out at you. All of us have an affinity for San Francisco. We've all been there. We've all lived there. Anyway, take care.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now. And that was Jeff Bliscoe, who is or was checking in from the D.C. area from representing Puget Sound Consumers Checkbook. And now we're going to stay here in the studio, and now we're going to look for more calls to go with the zero that we got. But you know what I think, Marcus, is that some people are listening to something else that's going on. They're not taking advantage of getting their notarized, of ways to save money, ways to invest. And all they're doing is listening to the same old, same old. Not only that, they can listen to it later on at 8 o'clock tonight.
There you go.
And 11, I believe. But let's go here to, one thing we wanted to, let's just in a minute or two talk about the financial planning process.
Sure.
Okay. First of all, we want to make sure we have enough money for 6 to 12 months of living expenses.
Yeah, I mean, if you're boiling it down to a single minute, you're answering the question of why, and it's really that simple. Why do we work? Why do we save money? Why are we doing what we do in our lives? And you're trying to answer that question. And for most people, the big R comes up, retirement. But for younger people, it might be saving money for kids for school, which we can talk a little bit about. It might be retirement savings. If you are retired, then financial planning is about making sure that you have enough to last for the rest of your life and planning that out. So a lot of people feel like financial planners get into really delve deep into the investments, and really what financial planning is a lot more about is figuring out what the plan is for the money. The investments are they're a subset of that.
And so we're going to get the 6 to 12 months of money put aside for emergency purposes. 6 to 12 months of expenses that you have put aside. And we're going to make sure we have all the insurance we need.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, this is the impossible task of dispensing financial advice to all of the thousands of listeners that we have out there. But I think, yeah, you're exactly right. You want to figure out what the rainy day bucket is, the expense bucket, and that you can cover yourself for a while in case something unforeseen comes up. And insurance is another piece. Taxes, of course, is another chapter of financial planning. You even have estate planning that you want to cover when you put a financial plan together, and then of course your investment portfolio as well.
And so after you've got the security of the emergency fund, and you've got the security of being insured for things like life.
That's right.
If you've got people that depend on your income, and disability income insurance, and home insurance, obviously. I mean, you can't buy a home anymore without home insurance, can you?
Yeah, it's not, at least not if you're going to have a mortgage, they're going to require it.
I guess if you pay cash. But in any case, then you're ready to maybe take some of the money that you're saving and investing it, which basically, from the old school of economics, saving does equal investing. If you put the money under the pillow, you're getting 0%, but that's investing.
Well, yeah, some people would argue that sticking the money under the mattress is almost losing money because the things that you're buying are being subject to inflation. So, a gallon of milk in 5 or 10 years from now is going to be more expensive. A gallon of gasoline 5 or 10 years from now, probably more expensive. And your money under the mattress isn't making anything, and so it's going to be able to buy less milk and less gas in 10 years from now. And so, in a way, inflation has basically eaten away at that money under the mattress. So what do you need to do? You got to put the money to work.
But if you have it under the mattress, you're actually making more money than a lot of people in Europe are making by putting it in the bank. But that's a different topic.
Yes.
Although that's a problem with what we have with our with the whole economic system in this country too, because we're faced with that overseas. But that's not something for this show. Anyway, let me ask you this: with your clients. Do you prefer using exchange-traded funds or mutual funds for investment?
That's a good question. What we want to do is pick out the best type of investment vehicle for the category. And our firm's philosophy has tended to look at it objectively, and what we've ended up gravitating to is more ETFs, especially in the investment categories where ETFs are more efficient. Where we find some inefficiencies in the market are some areas, especially in our opinion, in fixed income categories. And that's where actively managed mutual funds can really justify their cost and expose those inefficiencies in the market, and thereby we feel like those are better investments for those categories. So we have a mix of ETFs and mutual funds. Depending on the investor, most of our clients end up in more ETFs than they do mutual funds these days.
But they don't trade them.
Well, our clients hire us to manage the accounts for them. So our clients don't trade them. That's accurate.
And you don't trade them.
We do rebalance and reposition the account from time to time. So it's based on economic factors and what we see coming in the market. We can make adjustments to our allocations.
But that's not my definition of trading.
No, if you're defining trading as really, actively buying and selling things on a daily, weekly, or even potentially just on a monthly basis, that's less our style. Yeah.
And now we got, let's get into that area that we mentioned, the 529 plan.
Sure.
And the GET program.
Yeah.
And also, well, let's start off with 529 plan and the GET program is college funding. But my question that does come up quite often is, should I put my money first into one of those programs because I have a kid that's coming along here, or should I put it into my retirement account?
Yeah, and I think it's a great question. The first thing to ask yourself is, really in your mind, what have you really earmarked this money for? If it's really earmarked for your retirement, but you want to have the potential use for education later on down the road, then probably an IRA makes more sense. If you really feel like you're on track with retirement, and that goes back to the idea of you've maybe put together a good financial plan and you're saving potentially in like a 401k plan from work or on your own already in an IRA and you're maxing that out, and now you've got extra money and you feel like I really want to save some money for my kids' education, then one of these plans, the GET program, the Washington State GET program, or a 529 plan are great options.
And distinguish, would you, between the 529 and the GET? The 529, I imagine every state has a 529, right?
Just about.
But you can invest in every other state's 529.
You can invest in any 529 plan you want. If you live in a state that has a state income tax, it generally speaking makes the most sense to use that state's 529 plan, because now you're not just going to get the federal tax savings, you're going to get that state income tax savings as well. We live in the great state of Washington, and we don't have a state income tax, so
we don't have that.
That's right. We're kind of, I guess, we're blessed with the opportunity of really being able to shop around and look at any 529 plan in the country and pick out the best one we can.
Any ideas on where the good ones are?
There's a lot of good ones out there. One of the websites I like that does a good job of rating the different 529 plans is savingforcollege.com. I should disclose, Viridian doesn't have any association with that website. I'm not, there's no benefit to me from it. But I think they do a good job of objectively looking at the different states' plans. And depending on what your particular situation is, you can pick out the best plan for you from some of the research that you can find on a website like that.
What about the whoever's in charge of this topic at the high school that your son or daughter is at? Can you really trust that they are knowledgeable about the 529 plan?
It's a good question. It's going to probably depend a lot from one school to the next and from one college counselor to the next, and really how much they've educated themselves about it. I'm sure that a lot of them out there have a lot of information. They should have, some booklets or resources that they can hand out to provide you with more information about saving for college. But that's going to be really on a case-by-case basis. Most of the time, high school counselors are there to help with the admissions process and probably may or may not have a lot of experience on the financial side of college.
And with only a minute or two left here, let me ask you about what you do with your older clients. When you get closer to retirement or you're in retirement, you want to lock up some of that money that you've accumulated in terms of safety. Mm-hmm. What are you using for that?
Right. So you and I talked a little bit before the show. Interest rates in general they're not at their lowest levels, but they're on the lower end, and that's made income investing more difficult. We still use.
Which is the traditionally safe
That's
way.
exactly right. Yeah. So traditionally, as you age, it's not a hard and fast rule of thumb, but traditionally, as you age, you move into more income-oriented investments, and that has traditionally been bonds. With interest rates low, bond investors have been pinched with lower interest rates. And so really what we end up looking at is, yes, we still look at bonds, but we also look at other areas that we can incorporate to help enhance the yield. Those can be dividend-paying stocks. They can be funds that invest in real estate that is more geared towards income. It can be annuities at times. It's basically a diversified portfolio that's going to probably yield the best income for you.
But even the dividend-paying stocks will go down if we have another dump in the market, and we're going to have a dump. It's just a question of when.
We will always have pullbacks. There's no doubt about that. And you are right. You have to know that when you leave the bond world and you go exploring in other places for income, the yields there may be more attractive, but you really need to recognize and you should talk to a financial advisor about what the risks are of going into other areas other than just bonds.
You also mentioned the possible use of annuities and REITs, which would be mutual funds that have REITs?
Yeah,
real estate investment
Real
trusts?
estate investment trusts, we prefer the use of exchange-traded funds or mutual funds to access the REIT market because it provides more liquidity. Some of the problems that REITs have had historically have been that they're illiquid, and I guess philosophically, we're not huge fans of any type of investment that provides low liquidity.
There's our traveling music, Marcus.
Right.
And anyone who wants to get in touch with you, your location is in Bothell.
Yep.
And how can they?
A best way to get a hold of us is visit viridianadvisors.com, and Viridian is spelled Viridian, viridianadvisors.com.
Yeah, I like that. Viridian. Okay.
There you go.
Great. Well, good to have you back again, and I look forward to doing this again with you in the future. And
thanks, Chuck.
I'm sure after we leave, I'll remember about 14 different things that we were going to discuss, but we ran out of time. But I guess the thing to remember at the end of the show here is in terms of saving and investing, just do it.
That's right.
Somebody said that.
That's not a Nike endorsement.
Okay. Anyhow, that's it for this month's Getting Your Dotarized, but we will be back on August 27th. That's the last Tuesday of August, when I will return, and I trust you will too, for another episode of Getting Your Dotarized. The content of Getting Your Dotarized is informational in nature and should not be construed as advice on investment strategies, nor are the views of the program's guests endorsed by KSER's staff or management. Getting Your Dotarized is a public affairs production of your community radio stations, KSER and KXIR.